I'm Stephen Goacher, Professor of Music at Howard Payne University and Director of Winds of Triumph. We've had an amazing summer and an amazing year, which I'm happy to tell you about. We were selected, or the students were selected, to represent Central Texas, the state of Texas, Howard Payne University, the United States of America, as musicians and musical ambassadors at the Olympic Games 2012. So with this, we were able to make a trip to Paris, and we played a concert in Paris at the Arena de Montmartre, and then it was followed up by 4 performances in London. We played a wonderful Friday evening concert. It was an outdoor concert in Paris, and the French people love American music, and you hear it everywhere. You hear it in the stores, you hear it in the restaurants. Everywhere you go, you hear American music. So they're used to the music, but it seemed to mean something special to them when it was brought by the Americans. So they were very enthusiastic to our program. They gave our students a standing ovation. The students also played 2 encore numbers, which were greatly received. And that gave our students great strength and great encouragement to that they could play well, that they could be received well, that their message in music would be received well. So we went on to England after that to approach the Olympic Games with great confidence. Our next performance in England was at Exhibition Road. And Exhibition Road was really a street that was remade over just for celebrating the Olympic Games, and had all kinds of entertainments, all kinds of musical entertainments, as well as athletic types of entertainments. And it was a celebration for the people of London, and it was held right beside the great row of museums there. So for instance, we set up right next to the large Victoria and Albert Museum, which is in central London. It was a pleasure to play there. They had a very special stage for us with special lightings and special sound. And so once again, the kids were greatly encouraged by their surroundings and their setting, and they played with great courage, and they were very well received in London also. So we were told that in London, people are very reserved and they never ask for encores, but they actually asked for an encore from our students. And so they played one, and when we finished, they asked for another, but the programs were so scheduled so much that we only had time to give one encore. But once again, we were greatly encouraged by that. We had an interesting day going to the Olympic Village and receiving our security badges. And actually, for where we wanted to play, it was the highest security clearance in all of Europe. So it was pretty rigorous going through that, with our passports and saying who we were. And for instance, the director of the group, was rejected the first time around. They said, "You can't come in here." So we had to go through a lengthy screening process for me, although the students didn't seem to have the same problem I did being accepted for that. Well, our next program was at Victoria Park, which is a park that was licensed for 30,000 people. And we went to Victoria Park. It was right next to Olympic Park. And here again, it was a celebration in music of the games, and a celebration of all the pomp and circumstance that would go with the games. We had an interesting experience there, and it rained all day, and it rained all day. And we came up to time for our concert, and I looked at the clouds and I did a little 90-second rain delay before we actually played, and the clouds passed over, and I gave the downbeat, and at that point the last drop of water went by. We played the whole concert for an hour. It was a sparse crowd because of the rains, or the rains had kind of chased people away. And we finished the very last note, and the rain started again. But we had perfect dry weather for that interval there where we played our entire program. So that was real fun. And once again, we felt that we were blessed. We felt that we were being looked at and looked over, being cared for. All of our needs were being met. The next day was the big day, and that was the day that we played in Olympic Park. And we hardly knew the great events that would unfold there for us. So it was a beautiful day at Olympic Park, and we first arrived there, and of course there was the very strict security and the strict screening to get into the park. And once we were in, we were able to use for changing our clothes the very same rooms, the very same building that the athletes were using. So we could see the rooms where they were doing the drug testing, and we'd go into the dressing rooms to get into our tuxedos, but we could see they'd left their street clothes just laying around there. So we were that close to the Olympians. We took our place to go to the stage, and we found that we were going to have the opportunity to play in the world's first inflatable acoustic shell. And this was an amazing invention. Who would have ever thought of such a thing? And in fact, it's a 21st century invention, and it just makes you think, what will they think of next? It was an amazing thing. It was so amazing that our 13-piece band fit perfectly into this acoustic shell. And we were able to be heard throughout all of the Olympic Park with no microphones. So they would listen to the band play, and they would make little adjustments with acoustic panels here and there. And wherever you went in the park, you could hear the band as though it was a theater speaker right next to your ear. And it was perfectly balanced, and you could hear everything that the kids were doing, no matter how loud or how soft. So that was an amazing invention. We finished that concert at 4 o'clock, and it was very well received. And once again, we were given a standing ovation, and there were requests made for an encore. So we played an encore, but of course we were part of a festival program, and the programming was pretty tight, and there was another group waiting to get on the stage, but we were gratified. When we played our program again at 6:30, we were absolutely amazed. Word about the band had spread throughout the park, and so there were entire groups of workers who worked in the park, and they took their break and came in their uniforms and stood in groups here and there throughout the park there just to hear our band. So it was a wonderful reception for the kids, and it was a beautiful vision. If there was one vision, and all of us think visually, it's the one picture that paints 1,000 words. And I think of some of the photos that are on the desk behind me. There's one photo that shows people of every nation, every color, every land, every tribe, and they are all seated on this grounds of the park, and they're listening to the music, but the music we played was music to the glory of God. And of course it was in a very attractive beat, and it was a very pleasant kind of harmonies, and very modern and upbeat kind of harmonies. And people listened to it, and they were just drawn to it. It made me, and of course, everything was clean and spotless because it was the Olympics. And then we were in this white, shiny kind of inflatable acoustic shell. And the picture, worth 1,000 words, was maybe that's a scene of heaven where the weather is perfect and people from every tribe, every nation, every tongue, and we're all gathered on a beautiful outdoor spot, and we're listening to the music that praises God. When we think of the impact of a trip like this on our students, it's amazing, and it has an elevating effect. So when we teach a subject and we are talking about universal ideas, ideas that are important for their future, and it would be ideas that would apply no matter what country they were sent to. Say someone in business or marketing, what they would learn here in America would apply if they went to Austria, or it would be equally valid in Germany. But it's a global market and international. But it's another when you're just a student and you're grappling with some of the big issues and some of the big questions, and suddenly you are taken from your classroom. You're taken, in our case, from our rehearsal hall, which is where we work on things, we practice, we hear it over and over, we rehear it, and we work on it and we shape it. And then suddenly we get on an airplane and we travel to another continent. You get off the airplane, and now all of a sudden you are a professional. There's no time to practice anymore. There's not even time to warm up. There's only time to get off the plane, get on the bus, get into the uniform, get your instruments together, set up the bandstand, and play. The question is what you learned in the classroom valid on the world stage. In this case, not only did we go to Paris and play, and it was a wonderful warm-up, but we went to the world stage where the best of the world athletes were. The demands for the music were equally high. They expect world-class music of the musicians. And to be able to go there and suddenly perform, and to perform so well that really with encores being demanded and standing ovations, in a lot of ways, you got your gold medal. And so the judges spoke and they said, yes, what you were learning back in the classroom, of all places in Brownwood, Texas, it was still valid on the world stage in London. It was valid on the world stage at Exhibition Hall. It was valid on the world stage at the world's first inflatable acoustic shell. It was an amazing experience. And suddenly you are elevated from being a sophomore in college to being one of the best. Obviously, when you undertake something like this with students, it's just fantastically expensive. When you stop and think about it, these are students who are doing pretty well to buy themselves a pair of jeans. Or it's a big deal if you can put together enough money to maybe go down to the Sonic and get a hamburger and Coke. And then suddenly we present them with the idea, we need to raise this many thousands of dollars to take you halfway around the world. Well, everyone shouldered this, and we found that we were greatly blessed and greatly supported by donors. And the students did a letter writing campaign, and that was the main appeal for fundraising. And the response was wonderful. In fact, it was overwhelming. We met our goal for fundraising, but you couldn't do it just based on kids. Dig into your piggy banks, dig into your allowance, and come up with money out of the cushions of your sofa. That would never work. What did work was the heartfelt contributions. We know that it wasn't that easy for our donors to consider, well, this is pretty special. In fact, can we really pull this off? Do we really have faith in our students? Do we really have faith? And yet they sat down and they wrote the check and they sent it in lovingly. And we very lovingly want to tell all of our donors, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. When you stop and think about it, this was indeed the trip of a lifetime. Certainly in the lifetime of these students, they will be graduated before the next Olympics come, or really before the next huge, big world stage event will happen. So it was a learning opportunity, it was a performance opportunity, it was an opportunity for everyone to see that God's hand is on each of us, no matter what we do, whether we do the actual performing, if we do the actual studying, if we do the teaching, or if we do the support and the contributions. It was all a very blessed event. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
My name is Tyler Matthews. I am a senior from Peaster, Texas. I attended Peaster High School, and I am a music education major. Above all, I want to thank God, because without Him, this would not have been possible. And as a group, we need to thank all of those who have been faithful fans and new fans that we have found along the way abroad, overseas. And Winds of Triumph would not be the experience that it is for us if we were not able to provide the music for them.
My name is Andrus. I'm from Anson, Texas. I am a senior music education major here at Payne. And when we left Payne on our journey to start our way to London, we were under the impression that we were the smallest group going. We were told that there were a few other groups from the United States going, but we were by far the smallest. We're only 13 pieces, and when we get there, we instantly meet the Penn State Marching Band, which is easily 140 to 150 people. And so we were having to, in a way, compete against their sound when we perform. We were kind of worried about how we would sound compared to them in an audience situation, but we were pleasantly surprised. At our first performance in France, we were in this little amphitheater area, and just like these stone steps where people would sit down and listen to us. And it was our first performance. We were just ready to rock the house in essence. And so when we started our playing, the crowd was very responsive, very receptive of the music. And one of the greatest things that I saw is we're playing these spiritual pieces like Down by the Riverside and stuff like that. And when you're in Paris, France, you don't know how they're going to react to it, but pleasantly, I could see people mouthing the words. And you know, that really, it hits home for people who are, in a way, we're on a mission trip, as well on a trip that's once of a lifetime. After our first performance in Paris, we got a double encore. They gave us a slow clap all the way up to playing our next song. And it was, it's kind of, it's something you can only kind of dream about, in a sense. We're in a foreign country playing music that we love, and we hope that they will love it too. And we're already on our journey to the Olympics, the biggest sporting event in history. And we're in Paris and we get a double encore. It just blows our mind. As far as crowd receptiveness goes in the other performances, it was just the same. Paris, France was more of an intimate setting of the concert, more just the crowd around us came and watched and listened to us. But when we were in the Olympic Park, it was a set stage, a performance area. There was a place where people could come and sit or lay down on the grass, and then there were bleachers set up in the back. We were set on a stage right behind another performer and another performer, just as if it were a live concert. And so it was a different environment. You know, people had been hearing the music before. Just so happened that part of Penn State's band performed right before we did. And so we, again, had to rock the house. And though we were small, we didn't feel small. We still had a sound that needed to be projected, and it was projected in a way that glorified God, thankfully. And so, along with a double encore in Paris, we got a double encore in the Olympic Park. And just that is, to me, is humbling in so many ways, that we're on the stage in the greatest sporting event in history. And we get an encore from people who don't know us, who you know, they know we're from Texas, and you know, some people say they like that, and so I guess that's one of the reasons. But they don't know how far we've traveled, what we've dealt with, or anything like that. But that they receive our music in such a way that they want to hear more is, for musicians and for college students, it warms your heart, and it makes you realize that your hard work has paid off in so many ways.
My name is Megan Irwin. I'm a sophomore from Brownwood, Texas, and I play trumpet for Winds of Triumph. Here in Winds of Triumph, we are very close. Most of us have been together for at least a year here at Howard Payne, and since we're all in at least a couple of music classes, we're in school together and practice together all of the time, and so we're really close. But over this trip to Paris and London, we got extremely close. We had closer to 20 hours of travel together on planes, and in Paris and London, we were always on a coach or a bus, and because of that, we got very close. Before we left for the trip, Mr. Goacher, our director, told us that we would probably get a little bit irritable towards the closer towards the end of the trip, but we never did. It was really funny. In fact, closer to the end of the trip, a few of us started getting sick because of the colder weather, or a few of us got headaches really bad, and we were just so patient with each other and would help each other, and that was really cool to see that we were just so close and such great friends.
I'm Taylor Cook. I'm a junior from Howe, Texas, and I'm a biology major here at Howard Payne. Probably one of my favorite parts of the trip was we had an Austrian tour guide, and she had an accent, obviously, and she wanted to know kind of some Texas culture. So we taught her to say like howdy and y'all, and she sang all these with an accent. It was really funny. We taught her how to two-step. And so now she's ready to come to Texas whenever she wants to vacation, I guess. One of my favorite pieces to play was probably My Redeemer Lives. We've played it for the whole time I've been in Winds. They were already very, well known in the piece, and so whenever we played at Olympic Park, we played that piece, and Grant, who is our soloist trumpet player, and then our guitarist Tyler Cooper, they just went to town. I'm pretty sure that was a 60-measure solo just between them. They just went back and forth and back and forth. And both of them can just improv like it's nothing, like they're just talking, you know. So it's just, it was incredible to just hear them, because it was different every time, you know. So it wasn't like, you know, just one of those boring pieces that you play every time and it's the same. The improv, like all their solos were just so awesome every time. They were just different and so lyrical and musical. So it was awesome to see that talent just every performance.
I'm Christopher Burnett. I'm a sophomore here at Howard Payne from Brownwood, Texas, and I'm a music education major. Things that happened in London were souvenirs that I bought, and some of the souvenirs I bought were a bow tie, cufflinks, and suspenders I'm actually wearing right now, and that's some things that happened in London.
My name is Tyler Cooper. I'm a senior, and I'm from Brownwood, Texas. My major is music education. And my most memorable memory of the international trip that we went on recently was actually at one of the venues that we performed at. It was at Victoria Park, and it was a very special moment because it had been raining all day, and it just seemed like it was never going to stop. It was either a really light sprinkle or a really heavy drench, and it just kept coming down. And when we started to set up, it seemed like the rain kept coming down harder and harder, and my instrument was wet, my amplifier was wet, I was terrified of being electrocuted. And as soon as we played the first note, it seemed like the rain just stopped completely. And we played the entire set without one drop of rain. And as soon as we finished the last chord, the rain started up again. And we all cleared off really quick and got out of the rain. But I just thought it was really great that happened, because in my opinion it was one of our least favorite performances. But I think that the rain thing happened to kind of amplify its effect on our spirituality, because I think that was a really big God thing, because I don't think I would have enjoyed the performance as much if that didn't happen, because I was kind of miserable being in the rain and being the fear of death by my instrument. So I think that'd be my most favorite memory from our trip.
Hi, my name is Ethan Yeats. I am a sophomore music education major from Big Spring, Texas. And for Winds of Triumph on the trip, I played the drums. My favorite part of the trip would have to be the first concert we played. We played at the Arène de Montmartre in Paris, France, and it was our first time playing overseas, and it was just it just went so well, and it was just kind of, a voice was telling all of us, this is going to be a good trip. This is a huge step for Winds of Triumph. We ended up playing our full set. We had to do a double encore. The audience, they wanted one encore, and we were surprised by one encore. So we played that, and after that they wanted another encore, which was just absolutely, it was amazing. We'd never experienced anything like that before. We came 6 days before we left, and we started rehearsing, and that was the first time I had ever played with this group before. So I was terrified, honestly, naturally. I had no idea how it was going to go. But it ended up working really well, and I got all the music learned before we left, and it was just an amazing trip for all of us. Definitely something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. I didn't buy very much on the trip, but I did end up at the Tower of London. I bought this little pencil sharpener, and it's a little catapult, and it was about 5 pounds. It's honestly, just a little cheap piece of metal, but for me, this is kind of almost a symbol of the trip, and it's going to be a way that I can remember it, if I could keep track of this for the rest of my life.